Hello everyone and welcome to my quick start guide on the Shadow Reapers servers in DCS World. These are a great set of servers, some are PvP, some are PvE, but all follow the same general pattern that I'm going to go over here. I'm not going to go over absolutely everything. I really want to keep the length of this video down, so I'm just going to focus on the absolute basics you need to be able to jump into the server, get on a mission, and contribute to your team. So first off, the server does run dynamic slots, so once you have loaded in, you can zoom into where you want to spawn, simply click the airfield, and you get the normal dynamic slot system. As normal, you can select your aircraft, and very nicely you do have the option to spawn hot here. There's no penalties for spawning hot, so well worth doing, especially if your aircraft takes a little bit of time to get going. So once you go in, you get a little bit of an audio briefing just to let you know the basics of how to get started. Now if we go to the F10 map, what we can see is a rather complex series of objective points. Each of these zones, as they're referred to, are either airfields or other kind of strategic zones. These can be cities, they can be things like pipelines, power stations, and of course airfields are also a major part of these. And what you are trying to do as your team is you're trying to push through, capture all of the enemy zones, and slowly push them all the way back. On the PvE servers, you have to capture all of the zones. On the PvP servers, when one side is down to only a handful of zones left, the AI will decide when it is impossible for them to win and will call the campaign. By the way, by looking at these zones, what you can see is they're connected to all of the adjacent zones with these little lines that represent the logistics networks. You can basically push from a friendly zone to a hostile zone in order to capture it, and these networks will bring in resupplies to your various zones, helping you reinforce and keep the zones. We can also see that some of these have a solid line. The solid line means that reinforcements will be sent via road. The dashed lines, such as here over the water, indicate that the reinforcements will be sent via air supplies. And we can see that front line connections here connecting blue to red are shown in a purple colour just to help slightly differentiate them. We also have the zone stats on each of these with how many personnel are currently still guarding it. So we can see here at Raylini we have 29 units still guarding it. Each zone has its own morale, which if this gets critically low, below 25%, the zone will start to automatically evacuate, and they need to have power to get basic functionality to work. Now in order to push to a new sector, what you're going to need to do is force out the enemy defenders. You can do that either by destroying the ground units, or by reducing the enemy's morale in that sector below that 25% limit. If it stays below 25% for 5 minutes, the zone will automatically evacuate and units will retreat. All sorts of things you can do to damage morale, such as shooting down aircraft that have spawned there, notably destroying ground units will absolutely affect morale. But luckily, in this campaign, the thing that really makes it unique is that you don't so much decide on what flights you're going to do. Instead, you get missions from the AI. The AI understands the system, and it is going to be assigning missions to various aircraft in order to do its best to push these zones. The type of missions you get really depend on the aircraft that you've spawned in. So if you spawn in a fighter, you will mostly be given options of various cap missions that you can do, with occasional ground attack if your fighter is capable of some degree of ground attack. If you spawn in ground attacker, you will mostly be given ground attack missions. If you spawn in a helicopter, you may well be given Caesar or transport missions. All of these do contribute to the campaign, and ultimately once you force the enemy out of a zone, it will then be up to your transport helicopters to drop off troops in that zone in order to capture it. So really, in order for you to actually contribute to your campaign, you are going to need to get orders, and to get these there are two possible ways. you can either use the comms menu or you can use the chat system. To use the comms menu, we go to your normal comms menu, go to F10 Other, and then you can go F1 to display your available missions. It will then give you a list of suggested missions that you can pick. Also, notably at the bottom of this, it gives you your wingman code, so in this case 3133. And this can be really useful because you can fly in groups, and some missions require you to actually be in groups. So for example, this seed mission here requires a minimum of 2 players. So first of all, what you want to do is get yourself in a group. One player needs to tell the others what their wingman code is. The other players can then join that either by typing /J and then the wingman code into the chat menu, doesn't matter what chat, whether it's global or team chat, or using the comms menu, go to F10, go to dial join in code, and then you can enter the code here, just pushing the F buttons corresponding to that 4-digit code. You will then get an alert in the top corner saying that you've joined a squad, and the squad leader will get an alert saying someone else has joined. Very similar system to actually pick which mission you want to go on. You get a brief overview here. Notably, you can just scroll down to see the general type. So if you really want to do, say, a strike mission, you can just scroll down and see what strike missions are currently available. These will be continuously updated as the front line moves. So if there's nothing that you're interested in, you're really unhappy with them, very often just waiting 5 minutes, you'll get a new set. The other very important part here is it gives you your location of your target, and these are not ordered in how far you have to go, so it is well worth going to the F10 map and having a look. So I had a group of missions there for Minka, which would be here, so this would be really close by, nice little trip for me there. But you may well be given ones that are further away, so I have been offered missions to Nogadi, which isn't too far, but is a fair flight. Depending on the exact layout, which will change from campaign to campaign, you may be offered some missions that are a very, very long distance away, so do just check, make sure it is something you can reasonably do in your time frame. So let's say I want to do this destroy enemy air defense mission. The code is 3445. I can either do that by typing /J 3445, and I can push enter. Alternately, I can go to my comms menu, go to F2, join code, and do 3445.
Mission waypoint is 21. Adjust your heading to proceed.
We then get information about the mission confirming there. So here the objective is to kill 3 SAM launchers at the target. All of your aircraft are preloaded with coordinates of these objectives, but because there are so many, your aircraft might not have the capacity to have these preloaded. But in that message, you also got the coordinates. If you've missed that and want to bring it back up, you can again go to the F10 Other and go F3 to Mission Info. So here we go, the zone coordinates are given here in various different formats to match whichever your aircraft accepts it in, and also gives you a note of the bearing and distance just to make sure that you know exactly where you're going, that you're not misreading the map at all. Then it's just a case of going over to that target, finding your targets and engaging them. If you want to abandon the mission for any reason, you can go back to that F10 menu and go F6 to leave or cancel, and then F1 will leave your current team, F2 will cancel your current mission.
Mission failed. Please review the mission info, last mission debrief section, to find out why.
And there you go, it will then confirm that that has been cancelled, and that will then be offered to another player who can have a go at that mission. So once you've got your mission, it's just a case of heading towards that location and carrying the mission out. What that entails depends on the mission. Sometimes you'll just be required to stay on station in an area for a certain amount of time if you're doing certain bar cap missions. Sometimes you'll be tasked with destroying ground units or transporting ground units, all sorts of different types here. One very important thing I would say is only take out your objectives. This is especially important when you are attacking ground units. You will be tasked with taking out a certain type of ground unit, for example, taking out air defense in an area or taking out armored targets in an area. If you get those sort of missions, it's very important that you only take out those and don't take out other enemy ground units that you see. Some of these enemy ground units will be things that are off limits for being attacked and will in fact give you a penalty, especially some buildings are not meant to be attacked. And on top of that, any other ground units that are down there that you have not been assigned a mission for, they're going to be somebody else's mission. There's probably already a player flying on their way to take them out. And so just out of a bit of courtesy, don't do other people's missions for them, otherwise they'll arrive at the target, find they can't do their mission. Doesn't really help the team, since I said there is a plane on the way to take out all of those other targets. So just focus on your own mission. One little thing to bear in mind here is this server does run a splash damage script, and so splash damage, especially on high yield weapons, is a lot more powerful than you may be used to, and so do be careful with that. You can very easily take out quite a lot that you didn't intend to, especially if you're dropping bombs around those kind of buildings that you are not supposed to target, such as workshops. If you ever forget what you're doing or you want an update on your progress, you can just go to the comms menu and bring up that mission info page again, and it will give you a little update on how well you've done so far, how many targets you've killed out of the intended number. Then lastly, when you've completed the mission, it will pop up in the top right to alert you with that. A little sound effect will be played to help draw your attention towards it. And once you've done that, you then have a choice. You can absolutely just accept another mission. You can do this while still in the air, there's no problem. And so that can be really good, especially if, say, you know there are ground units down there that you spotted, but they weren't part of your mission. Do just check, because they may well be in an available mission. You can just quickly take those and then actually get the points for taking out those ground units. Once you are happy though, it is time to RTB. You only get rewarded for your flight if you land. You get a tiny little amount if you do manage to bail. I believe it's 10% of the experience points you would have gained if you bail, but really you want to be landing. When you land, you turn in all of the missions you've done on that sortie, and you will be granted with a big bunch of XP. And what this does is partially levels you up so you can get higher and higher ranks, and partially gives you credits towards using favours that you can use to call in things like smoke on your target or JTAC drones to laze your targets for you. Doesn't matter which airfield you return to as long as it's friendly, so you don't have to go back to the one you spawned at, which can be very useful if you've gone on a bit of a long flight. You may have ended up somewhere quite far away from where you originally started. So that is that. As I said, I'm trying to keep this video brief just so it's something people can have a quick look at just to get them into the server. If people are interested, I can certainly do more in-depth guides to the various systems. There are quite a lot of things to know about this server, so I can definitely go over those. If there's anything you're particularly curious about, leave me a question down below. If it's something really quick, I'll get back to you in the comments. Otherwise, I will do a full video on it in the future. Anyway, until the next time, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers!